Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Sex. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
What's up, guys? My name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and today we're talking about I'm touched out and I don't want sex. Let's do this.
All right, if you're new to our show, welcome. This is Anatomy of Sex, and we are the Studleys, and we have count them three, shows all about family, sex, all that jazz. One
Anatomy
is called
of Family.
Anatomy of Marriage, Anatomy of Family, and Anatomy of Sex. And we started these because we care about ya, and it came from our journey.
We care about y'all.
We care about ya.
Right.
So we're glad that you're here.
So we can talk about marriage all day long, right? And deep dive into that. But we were getting so many questions about sex and intimacy and sexuality and all that stuff. We're like, let's do a real podcast where we can talk about anything in the world we want.
Right.
So this is obviously a free episode that we're giving you guys. We're going to do it once a month, totally free, an episode of Anatomy of Sex. If you want to catch other deep dive episodes that we do about Anatomy of Sex and answer listener questions, go subscribe at patreon.com/anatomy of marriage to join the club, the club of sex, talking about sex, all kinds of stuff.
But yes, and the reason that we have it behind a paywall is because we wanted to keep our lives as private as possible. So that's for our...
Yeah, mom.
He means his
Don't be listening, mom.
Perv. Your mom's a perv.
Oh, she's going to get mad at you if she
No,
listens to this.
I didn't mean it. Anyway, so yes, we're glad that you're joining us. And today's question is a very pertinent question, something that basically every new parent deals with, especially moms and especially nursing moms. Good night. It's so hard to do this. But anyway, the question is, I am touched out from kids and can't even think about sex. Help me. So it says, my husband and I are great. We've got 3 kids. The youngest is 5 months old and nursing, and it takes a toll. My time and literally my body is completely taken up with them. And then it says, I feel like I hardly feel in a sexual state, and I feel like my radar is always on children and their needs and listening for a crying baby even after bedtime. And it says, like, how do you focus on, you're trying to have a good marriage, you're trying to be a good parent, and you also want to have good sex. Like, what the heck do you do?
Right.
So thank you for sending in this question. It's a very good and very important topic because a lot of newly minted parents are dealing with this.
Parents.
Or oldly minted parents that have little kids. What are your thoughts just right out of the gate?
Well, okay. So one of my first thoughts is, I want to defer to you because more moms experience this than not. And even in our own kids, like to this day, we don't have little ones running around. Well, they're little, but not like baby infants.
Right.
They go to you for that nurturing kind of soft place thing. Right. And oftentimes I come home or like come inside and you're like, hello, don't talk to me, kids. Ask your dad everything, right? Because you've had 8 hours of that.
I want to know your perspective because I even thought last night was so weird. Like the kids literally just like circumnavigate me they're just like orbiting around me constantly.
You're big as a globe.
My waistband is equator. Anyway.
Your mom is so fat, her belt size is equator.
Anyway, but do you notice that? Like what are your thoughts on it? And do you notice it? What do you think about it?
I noticed that, and I noticed that it stresses you out. So there's this like little dance that I do when I come home and you go away, you're doing your own thing. I'm like, kids, okay, ask me, don't ask mom. Just not because nobody's scared or anything, but I'm trying to like
do you actually tell them that? I never see you do that.
I'm good.
So have you actually ever told them that?
Yes, 100 times every day.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
It doesn't seem like it because 2 seconds later, Hattie's going, hey, Mom, where's the iPad?
You can say, thank you, Seth. That's so
Thank
considerate.
you, Seth. You're so considerate.
I yell at the kids so they don't yell at you, basically, and it works. No, it doesn't work. No, I'm sure dads can be like, yes, I do that too, right? Give mom a break. Be quiet. Your mom's trying to chill or whatever, Right. So, yes, I do that. And I also know that is a lot of emotional strain and energy on you to have 3 other humans like always asking you stuff, always wanting to talk and all this stuff. And I last night was very evident. I was like, girlfriend, are you all right? You're like, fine.
I wasn't mean. You're so weird.
I'm not weird.
I literally was just quiet.
Right. Well, no, you were.
I was annoyed. Like, I didn't want a kid to...
You have to listen to me on this. You were extraordinarily snappy at the kids. I'm saying, And I think because you didn't even see it, which I don't care. I'm not mad, right?
Oh, I saw it. I didn't want them to shut up.
That's
I
right.
don't need to hear another kid talk
okay,
to
you're
me.
maxed at 110. Hey, kids, shut it, right? Hey, Mel, is there anything I can do or whatever? You know, you were like, and I did a good job of saying like, okay, whatever you got to go do, just go do it. I'll do the dishes or whatever, right?
Right.
And I think you actually went away to our room or something and took 10 minutes to do something,
and then
right?
Came back out.
But the point was, I was able.
You attune to it.
We tuned to it, right?
So I think attunement is basically I see you, right? Like it's the sense of I see you, I understand that it's a struggle, and I'm here. Like you don't even need to do anything extra, unless you say, "What can I do to help you?" Then do that thing, of course.
And I asked that, and you were like, "No." But if you would have said, "Yeah, do X, Y, Z," I'm like, "Okay, sure, that's fine, right?"
For sure.
So, but let's get the conversation back to sex. So, this mom says she's touched out, and of course, there can be an energy, emotional energy touched out. Like, don't ask me where the remote is for the 8 billionth time, kid, you know, or like, if you're hungry, go get yourself a bowl of cereal or whatever. So there's that emotional thing, but like also having young kids and breastfeeding, dudes, we don't know what this is like, right? But being touched out, what does that even feel like?
Like a prison, golden handcuffs. Like it's great. Handcuffs. Like kids are great, and being able to nurse is great, and having healthy kids is great. But at the same exact time, it is so completely exhausting.
Right.
And I think this brings up a very, very important topic that I don't feel like I've heard much or have heard many people talk about. But because, and this is how I'm perceiving this, tell me if it feels wrong to you. Ladies, comment if this feels wrong to you. That sex and intimacy from a female's perspective often feels like I have to give and perform here. Does that feel accurate to you? You just receive?
No, I give. I don't know what you mean by that.
It's like, so many women have said to me, especially new moms, when I speak at MOPS, they're like, it's just another thing on a to-do list that I have to do that I don't even want to do. Right. And as a woman, it's like, this is your duty. And I'm not saying that I agree with this, so please don't hear it that way. But do you see what I'm saying? It's like a performative, like women
Is it like, oh, okay.
It's not like I'm going, yeah, I want sex because it makes me so relaxed.
Right. So here's a good analogy. So I've had about 1 million different jobs in my life, right? From
could get weird.
Vinyl siding to bricklayer, brick mason kind of thing. And they've all been hilarious, right? And anyway, so say that my job was just laying bricks, you know, like I've been, 5 stories up on scaffolding, laying bricks, like slinging the mud, all this stuff, right? Okay. Laying bricks, like, oh my gosh, another red brick. Okay, great. That's 5,000 for the day. And then I come home and you're like, hey, you know that patio thing? Can you go lay more bricks? Right. Kind of thing. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is even look at a brick and hold a trowel and, mix the mud and all. No.
Yes.
I don't. But I felt a duty and obligation because
I wanted it. I wanted the bricks.
That helped you relax or whatever, right?
Right.
I should have said plumbers laying the pipe. That'd be funny.
You were never a plumber.
That's right. My brother is. But anyways, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So would that be the same way of how like women may feel? Because I'm like, the last thing I want to do, I just want to like sit on the couch and, eat supper and like whatever, watch a show. Right. Forget it.
Yeah, that is a good analogy because that is what it feels like, where it's like, this is just another stupid task that is not even on my radar whatsoever. And my husband, my dumb husband, is going to act like a freaking baby. Right. And that is how it feels. So many women, I hear that all the time, that women are like, why is this my chore to like make my husband happy or make him whatever? Like sex is almost never about us. I guess that's the best way to put it. Sex is almost never about what I want, what I feel.
Currently?
Like globally. Like not you and me.
Oh, okay.
I don't have bad sex. But you know what I'm saying? Sex for most women is not about them. It's about satisfying their husband. And so when you take a woman who has already got, 3 kids or 4 kids and you're
It's like what Miss Kev on stage said.
What'd she say?
Like what her narrative, like Miss Kev on stage from the Love Hour podcast, it was totally
Love
rad.
Hour.
She was told to lay there and be nice.
Right.
And I'm like,
oh yeah. Like a church.
Hell no.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I wouldn't say that, but
you did say that.
I did say that, right?
Yes. And so it's not about what we want. It's not about making us feel better. It's just about you.
Okay. So how about this? Because this is like I'm really thinking about this, trying to think about it from both perspectives, right? So we got guys, and oftentimes we aren't that verbose, right? We don't talk about stuff and share our feelings, right? Oh, this is perfect because this segues into a thing that I wanted to talk.
Keep talking. Don't get distracted.
About.
Yeah.
So like, okay, guys, we're out there in the world doing stuff or whatever. We're not really talking about our feelings, connecting, but like the way that we can emotionally connect and release is through sex. Do you understand what I'm saying? What?
No, keep on.
Why are you smiling?
Let's say it's through the vag.
Vag is life.
Oh gosh. Okay.
I don't know where I was going with that.
It's how you connect.
But is how we connect, right? So you said like, oh, guys are babies, we don't get sex. It's literally, and I'm not exaggerating here, it's literally like, hey, I've been holding all this bullshit in all day, and then I can come home and connect with my wife, and that like is such a release, like a balancing. It's like a brings me back to baseline kind of thing. You understand what I'm saying? But, I don't know. Unfortunately enough, that is the last thing on your mind because you got little paws all over you all day with kids and stuff like that. Right? So how can we get it to be like, and it's very different from bricklaying. It's like you can't have an orgasm from bricklaying or feel connected in that. But like at times, like, well, sex can be good for you too, right? If you're there, if you're in your body. Does that make sense?
That sounded so lame. Well, like sex can be good for you too, right?
Okay.
That's how most men think, I think.
That's
they
true.
think that way.
I typically don't think that way. It's like, come on, you'll like it. I'm way over that. I don't treat sex that way.
But I think too many people do. So that's a conversation right there. But I want to, back to the main thing about being touched out. One thing I want to say too is really interesting. And it's like, I think it's part of the fall. I'm not even kidding.
Part of the fall? Oh, you mean like in Christianity?
Yeah, like
the fall?
Adam and Eve, the fall from the garden. Is that women, when they've got these little kiddos, if you're in a happy, healthy state, meaning like you don't have postpartum depression or whatever, or you're not struggling in any other way, you are being totally met for your emotional, like social emotional needs. Mostly like little kids look in your eyes, they coo and caw and they talk.
There's a lot of oxytocin.
You get to
There's
kiss
a lot
their
of
face and
all kinds of stuff.
So all day long.
We've talked about this before.
Yes. All day long I would be with our kids with the oxytocin love chemical just floating through the air.
I feel so connected.
Yeah, they're so sweet.
Blah, blah,
and
blah.
like even if they're challenging, they're also sweet and it's really wonderful. And I've got all these like heart, I've got all the feels all the time. And Seth has, been laying bricks all day. He ain't got no oxytocin.
Right.
He ain't got no dang oxytocin. And sometimes I feel like I'm so redneck. My texts even say wanna instead of want to.
That's
and
good.
Gotta instead of got to. And I'm like, oh, I'm such a redneck.
The Southern is right.
I don't know.
Rubbing off. I don't know.
You couldn't even say it. You're so Southern. Anyway, but this idea that like Seth is just not oxytocin all day long.
Right.
And I am. So then his one connective outlet I don't need.
Right.
He would
so that's why it can be so disappointing and disheartening to a guy if we're like doing, not getting that
yes
oxytocin, that, dopamine or whatever, like feeling connected.
Yeah.
We're just out there doing stuff.
Laying
and then
bricks.
the one person in the world who I'm supposed to have sex with has been like, nope.
Don't need you.
Then what do you do, right? Then we go drink or look at porn or like, you know what I'm saying?
Men are the worst. Just kidding.
They're the best.
There's the Seth I love. Yes, and so I think that that's a very important factor to understand from both perspectives because women need to understand if they're at home all day with babies, even if it's a challenge, you've got this emotional connection that you're doing it's chemicals all day long. You're experiencing it. and then your husband is not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he's trying to get with you. Right. So I say, where's the balance?
Like, where's the balance? So let me just kind of balance this and
do it.
Bring an equilibrium here. So I don't want this lady to be like, oh, great. My favorite podcast, the #1 marriage podcast in the world, is saying that, okay, well, my husband needs sex, so I got dopamine going. He doesn't. Great.
No, we're not saying that.
Not saying that. I'm saying because, okay, sex is meant for connection and pleasure, right? So let's think very strategically and systemically around this. So, okay, you're touched out, right? Luckily, little kids go to bed pretty early. Some, right? So let's just say, all right, we get the crew down. It's, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Okay, everybody's sleeping. Then why don't you go and do some meditation or be like, I'm just going into a cone of silence here. Don't talk to me. I'm not looking at email.
Fortress of solitude.
Right. I'm doing exactly what I want to do. If you want to,
talking about the wife here, right?
Yeah, the wife. Like veg on Facebook or do whatever, watch Netflix, then go do that, right? And if you fall asleep, great. If you're falling asleep every single time, like, well, okay, let's maybe engineer something different. But the point is, I talk to my coaching clients, and if you have questions about coaching, email hello@anatomyofmarriage.com. But I talk to my dude coaching clients of like, it's very important when we go from situation to situation, it absolutely necessitates us wearing a different hat. So if you have to sit in your driveway,
or like switching energy or whatever.
Switching energy.
Right.
So on the drive home or whatever you're doing, if you have to sit there and spend 5 or 10 minutes visualizing yourself, okay, I'm putting off the worker hat. I'm putting on the dad hat. When I wear the dad hat, the kids ask me a million questions. There's barf everywhere. Or we get to jump on the trampoline or run outside. Okay, now putting on the husband hat. My wife wants my attention, and that's something I can be even thankful for. So we can even reframe it. Wow, I got a woman who wants who I am right now. So let me put on my husband hat. You understand what I'm saying? So it is that taking a real and defined pause to change your situation. So for the mom all day, touched out, don't even look at me, I don't even want to see you kind of thing. Take off that hat because the kids are in bed. Put on your like, okay, I'm chill as a pill hat. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe that might allow you to put on your sexy hat.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And I think there's an important part of this too, because one thing that we're not sort of mentioning is that kids can touch you all day long and you're touched out. But guess what kids don't do? They don't rub your feet. They don't rub your shoulders, right? There are ways that you can receive touch versus like just being touched.
Right.
That would bring you connection and pleasure, right? So there's tons of actual practical ways to talk with your spouse about this. And let's just be really honest. If I said, Seth, I want a foot rub, what would you think?
Okay.
Like, would you be like, oh, foot rub?
No.
Okay. Tell me more.
I would gladly do that for you.
You spit on me. Oh my gosh.
I would gladly do that for you.
Right. So what if you knew a foot rub would lead to the vag? You said vag life and me
foot
like
rub leads to.
Oh my gosh. No. Shame.
Or does it? Right.
But what if it did? What would you think?
What do you think? What? Hey guys, go rub your feet. Have sex. I mean, your wife's feet. Have sex.
I know, that was weird. Yeah.
Any guy alive would do that.
Then why don't they?
Wife got to ask.
Oh no.
Why not?
Are you kidding?
So, you tell me what you want.
I've been at home all day with little dingbats, hands going everywhere.
Right.
Hanging off the tat.
The
That's
tat.
not a thing. And you're going to tell me I need to tell you what to do?
Yeah.
You don't tell me to do your laundry.
No, I can. No, you can. I want to empower you to be like, hey, what do you want right now? What do you need? And if you can say, yeah, I want a foot rub right now, then the guy, that's actually really good. Then the guy, I know exactly what you want rather than having to guess. You know what I'm saying? Because you are hard to read.
Oh, eat it.
You are hard to read. And I can say, hey, do you want a foot rub? It seems like you're stressed. You're like, no. You know, I'm like, okay, is there anything I can do? And sometimes you're like, no. but then you're secretly wanting it. And then...
Oh, I don't secretly want anything. I tell you exactly what I want all the time.
Sometimes, right? But guys and ladies, you can do your marriage a favor by saying what you want. And I have a really hard time with this, like Enneagram 9 stuff and whatever. I'm like, I don't need anything. Then just blow up later, which is not good. However, it's being worked on. It's been worked on for a long time. It's not even a thing. But really, say what you want and do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And not saying that, like, if you said, hey, can I get a foot rub? I'd be like, I don't know, is it going to lead to anything later?
Right.
Kind of thing.
And I think that is the energy most... Actually, let's switch gears really fast because this question pertains a lot to younger husbands. Younger husbands, love you. Sometimes you're dingbats and you don't think about things. So when you were a dingbat as a younger husband, so what do you wish someone would have said to you when our kids were actually little and we're like, your wife is touched out. Could you just like do something better? What do you wish?
Just do something better.
Yeah,
That's
could you?
Really ambiguous.
What would you say to your younger self?
I would say, hey, pay attention to that and really kind of understand the emotional strain that it actually is to have someone on your teat all day.
Right. Well, and even like yesterday, our kids are older. Like they're 8, 11, and 13, and they never stop talking to me.
Right.
They literally like... I need to go to the bathroom. There are children sending notes under the door and talking to me the entire time.
What?
And it's
that happens to me at work all the
kidding.
time. That happens. My clients do that to me all the time. I'm like, hello.
But it's different to think about. Like, you're dealing with adults. I'm dealing with 3 tiny kids, or 3 young children all day long.
Right.
And it's the farthest thing from my mind. So that I don't know. I like.
Here's what I would say to myself. Like, okay, dude, bro snake. If your wife is saying that she's touched out, don't dismiss that. It's a real thing.
Right.
It is real. So just like,
all right,
what can I do?
How frustrated you get the 18 minutes I ask you to watch the kids on the weekends? Like how you want to
whatever.
I just want to make you mad.
That's not even true.
But the other thing I did want to say is let's talk about as well how we can just be having better sex in general, right? Like you were saying, talk about the things that you want. If your partner doesn't want those same things, no big deal. Just shelf them. Ain't no thing. Move on to what you want together. So honor differences
so what does that
and
mean?
Promote linkages.
I don't want to get all like super like high level. I'm not saying like we're high level, but just things. You're like, yeah, no S, Sherlock.
What are you talking about?
Like you say, I don't know. So if your partner doesn't want this, then this is fine. Then do this. This like, let's get that's too much in the weeds. Let's get like on the green, 100 yards from the hole on the golf course. Like this. Let's get specific.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So what do you mean by, hey, just have good connection and pleasure? Like get down in the weeds of that. Like a real example of let's talk about in our own lives.
Okay. So ladies, here's something that you may have heard me talk about before. You have to know what you like. Okay. Lots of ladies have spent a lot of their time in sexual relationships just sort of trying to avoid the things they don't like the most. So hear that and hear how
Can you give me an example
that is.
Of that?
There's so many times when like men, even in dating relationships, if there's sex in a dating relationship or early in marriage, where men are just like revving to go and their lady is not.
Right.
And men just go ahead and go inside of them anyway. That is extremely painful and uncomfortable. It's not painful for everybody, but it's uncomfortable. It's like...
So when you're saying what you like, this just popped in my mind. Like men, there is a difference between an orgasm for ladies. There's a vaginal orgasm and a clitoral orgasm.
Why are you bringing that up?
Because when you say, what do you like maybe that's the first time a lady's ever heard that. I didn't know that until I've read like a couple of books about it. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm being silly.
What that can be something very specific in what you like. I have no idea. Sometimes I have an orgasm. Sometimes I don't.
Right.
Is it my vag? Is it my clit? I don't know. What the hell?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like actually spending some time, what is it that you like?
Right.
Where do you like to be touched?
And I will say, so I feel like you keep going off on different things here, but back to the kind of like, what do you like? It's not sort of a one time, like I liked cotton candy once and I love it forever. It's not like that.
Right.
Especially for women, because your cycle changes your body. Like it changes how your body feels. It changes where you are in your cycle, changes how things feel to you, how and where you like to be touched or where you really, 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 really don't want to be touched. So it's not a constantly the same thing. So when I say figure out what you like, I mean, it's really kind of complicated. Like figure out what you like today. What kind of sex you want to have right now? What kind of sex you want to have when your kid's been crying all day? Relaxation sex is my fave, right? Especially when you're a younger mom or a newer mom and you're tired all the time and you're like,
just give a brief explanation of relaxation sex.
I mean, it's just exactly what it sounds like. You're not like working all that hard. You're not trying all that hard. It's a mutual
you're not
like
flipping it, working it, and upside down reversing it.
Is syrup a minute to win yet? No, it's not that.
Relaxation sex is like you are kind of chill. It may be slow. It's in the moment. You're very
intentional touch,
it's in your body, right?
And it's co-created. Again, it's like a dance, like a collaborative dance. Think about it like this: if you watch a TV, Dancing with the Stars, your dad's favorite. If you're watching Dancing with the Stars, have you ever seen a dance between two partners where one partner doesn't want to dance? No, because that's not dancing, right? Dancing is two people doing the same thing together for the same goal, right? To have the dance. And so when we think of relaxation sex, think of a slow tango. That's basically what it is, right? It's slow. It's really intentional. It is not service oriented, meaning it's not about you could make it that way if that's what you wanted, but agree on it. Don't have one person trying to do the foxtrot and the other person's over here trying to do the Charleston. You keep wondering why you're not working out. But I think that's really important to establish, is that it's hard. It's hard from a sort of physical position when you're touched out and you've got little kids, but there's a million ways that you can solve that. The first one would be, like you were saying,
changing the hats and getting your mind ready.
Get into the sexy zone, which actually in our app, the Anatomy of Marriage app, I made a meditation for better sex. Like it's free. Get it.
Is it for ladies only?
No.
Can I listen to it?
Yes. Do you even know me? So yes, get the meditation, get in the mood meditation audio thing is in the Anatomy of Marriage app. So it's in the sex and intimacy. It's in the tools, right?
Right.
But so that is like switch hats, get in the mindset of being, of sexiness, but that does not mean, I guess that's, maybe we should have started farther back at like what we mean by like sexy, what we mean by intimate. These are all different things each time.
Right. That's why I want to put an emphasis on like connection and pleasure, because sometimes even for guys, it's like, okay, sex is just not on my mind. I mean, if you came in and like brought it big time, sure, instantly on my mind. But there's other times where I'm just like, I just want to go to bed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if it's that, then don't feel guilty.
Right.
But if it's like, there's part of me that wants to connect, then you have to slow down and put that hat on, get your mind transitioned. Because I do not want basically anything that we do or that we say is to like try to pigeonhole a wife or a husband into, well, this is what we should be doing, and like you're weird because you don't, kind of thing, right? Sometimes, and this is, honestly, I'll be real. It's hard for me to even think of being touched out, because I can, guys can go mostly at just whenever, and so it's hard to get in the mindset of like, oh, well, it's like, what did that one podcast say? It's like going down a water slide with no water,
right? For
ladies, like, oh, that would be the worst.
That wasn't the podcast. That was our
app. That was our app. Okay, so the app, right?
That Seth apparently doesn't know anything about.
I'm just a well of resources. It all comes together. I don't know. Sometimes it's like, I'm a therapist. I don't know.
Right.
So.
You don't know.
Right.
But so that is a really good point, though, that I think we need to be having these conversations about what is pleasurable to us. It's different for every person. Seth's experience is different from my experience, and it's different every day. That's the thing I wish people knew. Sex is not the same every day. And so just like I was thinking, you don't say, like when we say the word sex, we all think of it as one thing. We all think of it as like
P to V.
P to VI, intercourse, right?
Right.
But that is not true. It's just like saying, yeah, they ate food. And if we all went, oh yeah, burgers. Like no, food doesn't mean one thing.
Okay.
Sex doesn't mean one thing.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay. Tell me, but why? What does it mean?
Because there's a million ways to find connection and pleasure. Just like there's a million ways to eat a meal and have different food. There's a zillion different things out there.
Okay.
And so when we only think of sex being penal, vaginal, penny.
P to V penny. I know. I get it.
I get it. Then we are doing ourselves a disservice and doing our partner a disservice and doing our body a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I say, you got to actually know what you want. And you got to start by trying different things. And you guys, when I say trying different things, I do not mean like kinky sex or sex with other people. That is not what I mean when I say do other things. Try relaxation sex. Try, burning incense while you have sex. I don't care, but don't go from 0 to 10 million and be like,
right.
well,
Okay.
the only option is
Maybe
watch
like
porn. Ugh,
0 to
1.
50 Shades of Gray kind of thing. But also, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, you guys are doing all that weird crap.
Right. No, we're not shaming you.
She's not saying that. But I think there is a lot. Well, I know there's a lot of wisdom in like anything basically that we go to 0 to 10 to.
Right.
Is too much, too fast, and out of balance.
Right.
So try different things like.
Right. And more is not always better. So it's like, oh, I'm really tired of these hamburgers. I'll eat more of them. Like that. So people go, oh, my sex life is not so great. I'll just watch porn more or whatever. Like they just add more to it and it does not make it better.
What do we do then? Like if culture has taught us a bunch of different things, like, I don't know, we have sex. It's like she never comes, he does. And it's just like super quick. It's no good kind of thing. Like when you say have different sex, literally give options for people. Okay.
I will start with, I guess, my own journey with this. And it started with yoga in a church of all places. Sinful church yoga. Just kidding. But when I started doing yoga, it was actually with a mom's group. And it was like 3 of us. We would just do yoga with our little kids in the room, which was really funny. But I really loved that time. And I learned about my body during that time. I learned about the sort of the foundation of meditation and breath awareness and body and all of that stuff. And then I did a dance class. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I would go and do dance with the church people.
Not really.
It was, you're such a liar. But I would do dance with, you remember Brittany?
Yes.
And I would do dance with her and
that was forever ago. Yeah. Okay,
it was, and it was really fun, but it got me in touch with my body. This was when our youngest was like, she was probably like 6 months old, right? So I'm lugging a tiny kid in a carrier. I'm nursing her, and I do dance classes, and I would do yoga, like literally down the street from our house in the basement of a church. It was not like a big class. And that was the introduction for me of like understanding my body in a different way after I had children. Because it's different. There's not a ton of time to just get sidetracked. You asked me for advice, now you're going to talk.
No, I am, but I think it's a good conversation. So you're saying that you got more in touch with your body, but you did all kinds of stuff before we got married. You know what I'm saying? So were you not in touch with your body then?
Not in the same way. This is sort of like a balanced biopsychosocial spiritual in touch. This is like a grown-up, healthy in touch. When I was younger, I just did whatever I wanted.
Grown-ass woman sex.
Yeah. Put that on the trailer.
That's pretty good.
But that is the way that I was approaching. It was like, I want to learn about how to embrace my body in a different way. But I did not want to do what society would say, just watch porn with your wife. It's fine. I don't care. Everything's great. Right. Like, I didn't want that route. So I didn't choose that route. So I started meditating. I started like imagining, like, what would the word be? Like energy in my body. So when I would be like, okay, I know Seth wants to have sex. He's certainly not going to do anything positive or proactive about it. So I will, because I don't have bad sex.
Somebody's sassy
so
tonight.
I would literally envision, like, I think of it like sparkly red, like beautiful sparkle mist.
From
like
Trolls.
Glitter from Trolls, basically. Everything in my brain is like Trolls. And I would breathe and meditate and just have it like go through my body. Like in my mind, I'm imagining this and getting in touch. And as I'm breathing, I'm feeling like, I don't know, how do you explain that?
Does that take a long time?
No.
How long does it take usually?
It could take 3 minutes if you wanted, but if you want really great sex, do it for an hour. Do it while you do yoga. Do yin yoga and meditate about the amazing sex you're going to have. Like meditate about how your body is going to feel. And that's why I have so much better sex than you. It's not because I do anything different.
Hold on.
I'm intentional about my sex.
Oh my gosh. Do you, so we always talk about visualization, right? Like intention, affirmation, visualization. We might be onto something new here.
We're onto it. Keep talking. I thought you were going to say something.
Visualize. Ooh. What you're saying literally is you're visualizing yourself having good sex.
Yeah. Duh.
That's pretty good.
Of course it is. I did it. I
toot my own horn now, right?
I'll toot it all over.
No. Okay, this is good. So, I wonder if this would help for guys, because on this show, and probably all the husbands in the world are going to say this too, is like, I will have sex anytime, no matter what. I do not care, right? But if I approach you in that thing, you're like, I don't know, I'm not in the mood. There's a dry water slide, all this stuff, right? But, and this is why my comedy bit is going to be so funny, because I'm like, all women are stupid idiots.
I love it when you make yourself laugh. There's nothing better than when you crack yourself up.
I know, but it's like the idea of like, every woman in the world could have whatever they want because they can have sex with whoever they want to anytime. And us guys are just stupid morons of like, sex, right? But it's like, you can get anything you want. You want a van? I'll get you 2. You want a vacation? Let's take 3.
I love that like no one else would be like, why did he ask her why she wants a van? I love vans.
She likes vans, right? An Astro van and a Chrysler Town and Country, right? The 2 worst vans in the world. But I don't care because we're having sex all day. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's like, how can a guy do that same like, okay, I'm gonna have like great sex and this, but then like, you go to approach and like, no, I'm like, well, shit, that didn't work, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's different from the female perspective, which I feel sometimes holds more. Almost the gatekeeper of sex or not. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. It's my vag.
Oh my. I'm being serious.
I am too, but I mean, I think I like what you're saying, but there's so much in it. That's why I think it's biblically, it's part of the fall. I
part of the fall again,
really believe that in the core of my soul, that it is like, it's just ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
What's so stupid?
Like, men will literally, most of them, and don't get offended if this is not you, then you're in the minority here.
Most of them?
But men are like, I'll do it with anyone. I don't care. Who are you? And this is right on. Like, they don't care.
Do you remember our friend was like, I'll have sex with anyone.
Right.
I don't care.
Yes, I do. And he's married. And he said it in front of his wife, I'm pretty sure. But I think it's just ridiculous because it means so much. It means different things to different people and it's complicated, but whatever. I want to get back to the point of how do we get touched out moms to be having better sex? How do we get husbands to understand that sex is different for a woman? And this is a good conversation to encourage couples to talk about these things because some women, we get women write in all the time who want way more sex than their husband wants, right? And there's lots of reasons and lots of different sort of tempos and energies around sex with all different people. So we can't say it's one thing. It isn't like sex is not like microwave burritos. It's not a steak dinner. It's not steak tartare.
For some people it is, right? But I think this is the safest thing to wrap it all up. What brings connection? What brings pleasure, right? And if so, in this case, like say the husband and the wife listen to this podcast, they've been enlightened, and the husband's like, "What? I've been like making you have sex, not making because it's like I'm not talking about consent or which of course consent, all that stuff, but like wait a minute, you felt a pressure to have sex with me because you felt it was your duty. Oh my goodness, I don't want to put you out emotionally or physically like that anymore. I'm so sorry. What would be connecting and bring pleasure? That's the kind of sex. This is the husband talking to the wife who's touched out. I want to bring connection and pleasure to you and with us and also for myself in that, right? So instead of like being like, oh, sex is all about the man or whatever. It's like, let's reframe that whole thing. It's like, I don't want to have sex if it's not connecting and brings pleasure.
Right.
To both of us.
Right.
Because that makes for a very satisfying sexual experience.
Right. And I think too, this sort of came into my mind as you were talking is when we talked about this idea of knowing what you want, like start with knowing what you like, what feels good to your body as a woman. That could be drawn from past sexual experiences. It could be drawn from things that have made you feel aroused in the past or whatever.
That's a good point that I just want to pause on.
Thanks.
Because a lot of people have like a lot of guilt around like, oh, well, sex was good with my other partner before we got married and the church says all this, right? But I'm going to be like, if it felt good, it felt good. Let's drop that bull crap. You know what I'm saying? And there's a good way to bring that into your current marriage.
Right.
Does that make sense? So I don't want to be like, oh, that's valuable information. Is what I'm saying.
And the way that I look at it is just energy. It's like energy. It's like a good song has great energy. That doesn't mean I can only listen to that artist's music, right? But I know it's different. I'm not talking about cheating. I'm not talking about affairs. You brought that in. You got me all sidetracked. But I think it's important to note, like gonna sound like a tangent. Someone mentioned in the women's group that they're like,
what women's group?
The Anatomy of Marriage women's group, but it's called the Studley women's group on Facebook. And they were talking about like, I grew up with seeing this type of pornography, and it was like bodice rippers or what they're called. Have you heard of that term?
No.
It's like Victorian, like think of a bodice, like a fancy ladies, like Sherlock Holmes
rippers
times, bodice ripper, like he's ripping her bodice off.
Oh, I see.
It's probably what your grandma reads. Legit though. So it's like that's a type of like a romance novel. That's the word I'm saying. It's a type of romance novel, which is basically porn in a non-visual setting.
Right.
And so this lady was saying, I feel so bad that this is something that actually turns me on, and I don't ever want to like. I feel crazy thinking that my husband would know. Like I feel so bad, but I kind of want to. It really turns me on. And so what was awesome is a bunch of the women in the group were like, don't feel bad about that. Like, that's nothing to feel bad about. Like, it's something that's engaging your body.
Right.
And she was like, or not she, but they were saying things like, I don't think your husband would hate that.
That's exactly what I thought. Like, if you came to me and was like, and I don't even care about the context, but if you came to me and you're like,
I bought a Victorian bodice.
Right.
Seth.
And you were like, hey, I want you to rip this off in F. I'm like, already done.
That was the funniest sentence.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
I don't want like past, I don't know, maybe you could call them sexual peak experiences.
Right.
Like a peak experience is something where you're like firing on all cylinders, right? From the past or whatever, I don't want to like super shame that and condone that and go, oh, that was whatever the church would say that's nuts or whatever.
Right.
Like, oh, you can't do that. And then you feel all guilty around it. It's like, wait a minute. Of course there's stuff that is like, okay, that's kind of
right. And again, let's go back to like, if it is not something that brings both parties in the sexual relationship connection and pleasure, don't do it. Okay. That's the foundation of all of this. If your spouse is saying, I don't want to do this, don't. If they're saying this does not bring me pleasure, don't do it.
Right. But that is a vulnerable place for the woman to be like, hey, I want to like bodice kind of thing or whatever you call it. I don't know.
Bodice rip.
Whatever. Because that is putting yourself out there.
Yes.
And if the husband was like, what the H is that? What are you doing? Then that would be like, shut down.
Right.
Okay, see you later. Never going there again, which would be really bad. And that happens oftentimes. So I'm just thinking about our own thing. It's like, hey, what do you like that I might not know about, right? Are you open to sharing that? Do you feel dumb? Do you feel stupid? Do you feel whatever? You probably don't.
Because I rule. Yes, I get what you're saying. But
then also on the other side, because I think a lot of guys struggle with this too. It may be something that they've seen in porn before, which whatever that is, you know, and it's like, oh, well, I don't know. Then that's going to make you feel weird. Like, oh, well, she was doing this. You understand what I'm saying? But I want to, I think it would be good to undo that and go, okay, wait a minute. Because if you really think about it, can we honestly control and help what we're aroused by? Like I'm thinking about Emily Nagoski, sexual non-concordance kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So is that in itself a shameful thing? Maybe some stuff is just like, okay, that's really trippy.
Right. I mean, there are things that
thing.
I think can be, what is the word? Like you can make, I don't know what the word is I'm trying to say, but like you can connect things sexually that are not supposed to be related because of abuse. So like there's lots of maladaptive
right. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, okay, wait a minute. Right. But something like, I don't know. My favorite movie when I was, 21 was, I don't know, Braveheart or
Indiana
something.
Jones.
Well, you know what I'm saying? And that was like that awakened something in me. That
a ranger hat.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Apparently, Melody's
you want to put your gun
fantasies.
in the holster that you have next to your whip? Yes. Indiana Jones. Yes.
Oh my gosh. All right. I know.
And The Mummy. We just watched that one last night. Yes. Check. White Explorer.
Melody thinks I'm Brendan Fraser.
But I think you're onto something that is important, but also we say practice all of these things with care. We are not responsible.
On the moon? Yes.
That's like the lady, the naked lady in the beginning.
I know.
That was pretty funny. But we are not responsible for what you do with this information. We want to make that very clear. A guy says it in the podcast that I watch. I think we need to say that. But it's important to make sure that you're having these conversations with your spouse in a way that's like life-giving, the connection and pleasure piece.
Yeah. Let it all come back and point and revolve around connection and pleasure, and have a really respectful thing about it. So if Melanie brings something to me, is like, hey, I'm kind of turned on by this. I mean, you'd be a wise man to be like, okay, let's go. But you'd be really foolish of like, where'd you get that idea? And that might point back to actually some insecurity that you have. And that goes both ways too. If I'm like, hey, I kind of think this would be fun, it's like maybe that triggers something in you. What the hell you been looking at? Or where'd you get this from? Or that's trippy.
And that is very common that it actually happens.
Right. So a very respectful conversation, being respectful of your partner's willingness to be vulnerable around that, talking about it in a really constructive way, and then also centering it back around connection and pleasure. What brings you guys connection and pleasure? Because hopefully you're the only person that, I don't plan on sleeping with anyone but you, right? I mean, it might happen. No, just kidding.
Cool.
I'm just kidding. But, right? And same thing for you. So why don't we make this the best experience possible?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And without actual communication about it, when we're trying to hope that our partner will pick up on hints, or, I mean, it's like trying to build a house in the dark. Like you can't do that. You just can't do that.
You have to be specific around it.
You have to be specific and clear and say what you want and what you don't want. And then especially in the conversation around like being touched out or being even in the mood. Being touched out is basically like not being in the mood and not knowing what to do about it. We need to be able to know how to ask for the things that we want, but first you got to know what you like. You got to know what you want, right? So a lot of it is healthy, positive, loving exploration of yourself. But I will say this, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Meaning you can do whatever you want, but not everything is good for you. Okay. I'm going to say it again. Everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. So oftentimes we get emails from people saying, my husband thought it would be great if we watched porn when we were very first married. And so I agreed, but now I really don't want to do it. I've had 3 kids. I don't look like a porn star, like blah, 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 blah. And so they aren't actually walking in the healthiest way in their marriage because they're like, I don't know. I can't. Oh, if it's not beneficial to you anymore, don't do it.
If it doesn't bring connection and pleasure,
to both
then don't
of you.
do it. Like I have the money to go to Bakery Nouveau twice a day if I wanted to, right? That's permissible. Are you going to get super mad at me? Is it going to break our marriage or ruin our kids' college fund? No. Is it beneficial? No, it's not.
Right.
At all. So we can do anything we want. Does it tie back to connection and pleasure? Now, you guys, for real, this has been a marathon podcast. I know it's gone longer than we thought, But if you guys like what you're hearing, remember this is about anatomy of sex. Take a deep dive into stuff. Go and subscribe as a Patreon to Anatomy of Sex. Go to patreon.com/anatomy of marriage. And if you have further questions about coaching, it's like, oh, you've done some coaching. Okay, you're leveling up. Email us at hello@anatomyofmarriage.com or just click on the coaching button on the website and fill out the little form.
Right.
We'll get you hooked up. We'll have a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But coaching changes lives. We love it. It's amazing. It changed our life.
Right. For sure. And if our show is beneficial to you, please share it and then leave a rating and review. Do all the things that you know you're supposed to do, because no one gives two craps about what we say about ourselves. They only give craps about what you say about us. So
if
please.
you recommend this podcast to your best girlfriend, they might, okay, I'll check that out. Mm-hmm. But if they see us on Facebook or some other ad like, hey, hello, we have a podcast.
Look at those idiots.
Just like everybody else, right? So go rate and review the show, and then also recommend the show. Share it.
Right.
Click that little share button, okay?
That is right. So thank you for joining us. Again, if you've got a question, send it in, and we hope that this has been helpful.
That's right.
All right. We'll talk to you later.